Coming up on this episode of Stay on Track, would either of you have liked to drive the F1 cars of this current regulation? Quick answer.
No. Damon, did you really win the British Grand Prix whilst driving around with a Scotch egg in your cockpit?
You can't do F1 half-hearted. You have to be fully committed.
Ron was there behind his desk, and I was expecting... Morning, Johnny. How are you? How's the family? Lovely weather out there. Welcome to McLaren. And the first words that came out of his mouth were, I need to change you.
I did have regrets because the moment I put the phone down to him and said, you can stick it where the sun doesn't shine, I phoned him back about 10 minutes later. I went, I might have been a bit hasty.
Everything really does slow down in a very slow way.
No, I'm a lover, not a fighter, Johnny. What are you?
Oh, yes. We all believe that one. Absolute toffee.
We're going to start the show, aren't we?
We
Johnny?
are. It's, Stay on Track. Another episode.
It's an episode. I mean, the problem is they've cancelled, as we know, because of global conflicts and stuff. So our thoughts go out to everyone everywhere who's in the middle of this, because we're moaning because we've lost 2 Grand Prix. I mean, but there's a whole lot worse going on there in the world. Yeah. So thoughts go out to them, but we will try and keep people entertained in the meantime. Johnny, you've got questions?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we're going to do something slightly different. A load of questions that we're gonna answer coming from Race Members Club and YouTube as well.
YouTube community.
Yes.
Hello, YouTube community.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Hi.
Where are you?
Yeah, there.
We're trying to work out. I think you're everywhere.
Yeah, they are everywhere. Scattered around the world. Moving around the world. Right, shall we start?
Absolutely. Good idea.
Good, you do the first one.
Well, I need to put my glasses on for that. But what I just was going to say is I was talking to my wife about my podcast, our podcast.
Yes.
And we're called Stay on Track, aren't we? But there's another one I do. And I was trying to explain this to my wife, Georgie. I said, so I do another one. She said, what's that called? Off the Rails. But it's called The Undercut. But that was her response. Off the Rails, I thought was a much better name for our one.
That's very Georgie, that one. Yeah. Like that one. Yeah, very Georgie.
But she got a bit of a naughty sense of humour.
Didn't know you were doing another podcast.
I didn't.
It's a
sideline. It's The Undercut with Mark Hughes. So,
yeah.
And that's a serious one.
Okay.
And this one is more entertaining.
What is this one? Oh, okay, all right then.
But anyway,
I'm happy about that one.
So we do that as well.
Yes.
But today we've got all these questions from the race members and YouTube community, as you said. Andy Atkins, should we go with that one first on Patreon? If you were a driver manager today, what one piece of advice would you offer? One, our current world champion, Lando. Mm-hmm. So if I was a driver manager, what piece of advice would I give him? Or 2, the rising star Kimi Antonelli, and 3, Lewis. Oh my God, that's a lot of advice. Who has the most wins? Who has the most wins and is at the other end of his career to them both? Thanks. Love the chat between you and the legends of the sport.
You got it.
Thank you. There's 3 really. I get what he's asking here. Is basically you've got people at different phases of their career. I think so. Kimi's right at the beginning, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Come on, you far away. Go on, tell me.
Well, okay, I'm going to start with Lando, aren't we? World Championship. Of course, you know better than me about that one. But it's what you would try and advise, because obviously it's been a little bit of a difficult start for McLaren themselves. For me, just enjoy it. I think that's the biggest thing. I think wherever you are in your career, wherever you are in a championship, it's all about enjoyment. He's won his World Championship. He's going to have a brilliant career from now on. He's going to have a big fight, obviously, with his teammate as well, with Oscar. But if you enjoy it, I think that frees everything up for you, and you actually drive better by doing that.
Can I add something to that? Which is that I hear this all the time, and I understand, and I think you're right. I think it is important to enjoy it. I don't think if you're not enjoying it, it's very hard to deliver the performance you want. Yeah. But at the same time, in order to win in Formula One, you have to put yourself under quite a lot of pressure. In other words, you can't relax. You can't have time off. You can't go, oh, well, I'll
get through the weekend. Yeah.
It's hard work. I mean, concentrating on all the things and making sure you know everything you need to know is quite exhausting mentally.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But that's where the enjoyment comes into it, though, because I think they sort of work very well together. And then if you move on to the next one with Kimi, young guy, leading the championship, having a good fight with his teammate George Russell at the moment. But what would you tell him? I would say, don't be friends with George. You've just got to be very selfish about the position that he's in.
I knew it.
Huh?
I knew it. I knew you were that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
We'll
all this,
accept it.
I'm a lovely chap, happy all the time, funny bloke.
Visor down.
It's
It all
deep down.
changes.
He's a very nasty man.
And I'm glad you know about it. I'm glad you know. You've
But you're right.
You've seen it.
You're right. It's you can't have it's a professional relationship. So there has to
Very
be
much.
and I totally agree with what you said. I'm having the chat with Jack. We're doing some stuff with Williams, and we were talking about our time together.
He's an ambassador for Williams.
And there was respect,
Yeah.
but there was also the understanding that I will do everything I can to beat you within what is sporting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's learning that. So that's what your advice to Kimi is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you've got to work with the team as well.
I mean, you don't have to tell him to
everything out of
enjoy
the
it
team.
because he's loving it.
Yeah, he's loving it. quite obvious, I think, on that one. Yes. Third one, Lewis. Other end of his career, all those race wins and championships that he's done. Motivation still seems to be there.
Can you give anyone like Lewis any advice of any kind whatsoever? I mean, we've watched him all the way and he's never accepted. He's done it his own way. He's done it how he wants to.
Yeah.
And he's proved a point, I think, which is that
massively.
he's done what he wants to do. And that ultimately means he can rest easy because, there's nothing more annoying than if you get advice and you're not really sure it's the right advice. You take it and you do it and you go, I shouldn't have done that. Why did I listen to that person?
No, and you've got to sometimes listen to yourself as well, because I think with everything that he's done in his whole career, even before Formula One, there has always been that unbelievable talent that's always been shining through. And probably the one thing I would probably say if I was close to him was be honest. Because there is a point where things aren't going to be as easy as they once were. Your competitiveness is probably not going to be where it once was. And there is a point where you're going to have to sort of go, it's not quite where it was. And I've got to go, I've had my time.
Do you think he discovered that last year? Because he had such an awful time. But he's come back with a much better frame of mind this year. And I think it seems to me he's come to terms with the fact that he's at that end of his career and that you simply can't keep doing the instinctive things you do when you're 20.
Yeah, and again, he's with a younger teammate as well, who is sort of that next generation that we've seen, and there is always going to be that as well. With all the racers that we've seen in the past, the world champions we've had, from the Fittipaldis to the before that the Stewarts and the Clarks, but then with the PKs and Mansells, yourself, Michael Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen, etc. It always gets better. They always get more complete for some reason, and that is where things change and where you get to a point where you go, it's not as easy as it once was. So for me, I think it's just being honest with yourself, and when you need to sort of go, I need to hang my boots up.
Yeah, but so it's just a maturing process.
Yeah.
In other words, when you're young, you kind of, like Kimi, you don't know where the future is. You don't know what the story will be at when you get to your 39 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But Lewis knows the story.
Yes.
He knows he's won 7 world titles, more than races than anyone else. He's, he is easily the greatest in terms of his results. Alongside, I know Michael's up there as well, but
he's motivated. He's still thoroughly, pushing himself to the limits. But of course, he's being tested by Charles. But is he at the point where it's as easy as it once was? Because as you know, when you're sort of riding the wave, it's quite easy in many respects. But there is a point, I remember at the end of my career, where it wasn't as easy. Yeah. And then that's where I went, I think time has come. Yeah. It is a very interesting point in your career. And I think that also, the only thing I would say is if you, something that Bernie Ecclestone said, which really hit me, because quite often he's incredibly perceptive. I know he's got a lot of other, debatable, talents, but anyway. But the one thing he said was, when the driver sees the red light, they should stop immediately,
Because once you decided you don't want to do it, you should get out then.
James Hunt.
Rather than sort of hanging on until the end of the season or something.
Yes, the hanging on bit is horrible to watch as well, where someone still thinks they can still achieve things. Because it's like that it's gone.
Did you ever play rugby at school?
Sort of.
Well, anyway, they say it's like a rugby tackle. If you go in half-hearted, you're going to get hurt.
Yes.
You can't do F1 half-hearted. You have to be fully committed. So anyway, that's a bit of sage advice from us too, and we're not expecting anybody to take it. We're just answering the question.
Indeed, and we'll move on to the next one.
And we're certainly not advising racing drivers. Right, come on.
Yeah, no one will listen for sure. Right, Brian Mortensen. Hey, Damon and Johnny, first-time questioner, long-time listener.
Thank you.
What team principles from recent years do you think you'd have worked best with as a driver? Thanks.
Interesting one. I think I was very lucky with my ones. I mean, I got on with Frank and Patrick, despite a lot of stories, of the friction. But I really looked up to them. I thought they were incredible.
Indeed, get that.
There's one. Of all of them. I mean, there was. We're going back a long time now. People like Ken Tyrrell. Did you ever meet Ken?
Yeah, I drove for Ken. Yeah.
You had Peter Collins.
Peter Collins, for me.
Peter Collins, I would like to have worked with.
Yeah.
Tell us about Peter.
Yeah, Peter loved his drivers. Was always passionate about picking and choosing those drivers to get in his team. I was very lucky that he got me into Benetton after I broke my feet, and of course then after that back with Lotus. But he had a nice way, and still does have a nice way of discussing things in the environment to be able to get the best out of it. He was very, very aware that the driver was the most important ingredient there. So have a happy driver, you'll get a quick driver. On the flip side, there was Flavio Briatore, and Flavio could only focus on one of his drivers. And unfortunately, if he focused on one, which unfortunately for me was Michael Schumacher, which worked out very well for Benetton and Ferrari later on. But he was never very supportive of that second driver. It wasn't just me. Jenson Button went through exactly the same thing. Yep. Nearly killed his career, actually, when he was there. And then he was very supportive with Fernando Alonso. But he got that success by focusing on those particular drivers. But Peter, for me, was very, very important, even with my time with Mick Hakkinen in the early days of Lotus. Because he was very supportive of me.
There's so many to think of when you think about it. I'm just, while you were talking, I was listening, but I was also trying to think about some other people.
He wasn't.
And there's a few names. I'm going to leave out the ones I don't think I would have got on with.
Oh, come on.
Because
just one.
I don't want to upset anyone. But there's a few. Even now, I'm just looking, I go, oh, God. Anyway, but I would wonder at Christian Horner, I think I would have got on well with Christian. I think you have to be able to stand up to people.
Yeah.
And I think I would have been able to say, I think I would have had an understanding and being able to speak directly to him. And I think that's really important. One of the things, it's such an interesting question because when you go back in history, the team principals were roughly the same age as the drivers. If you go back to Ron Dennis and Nicky Lauda, in fact, Nicky might even been older than Ron, I don't know. But and Frank, when he started, the drivers, they were all the same age.
Yeah, true.
They were almost the same age as the drivers.
True. Yeah.
So imagine the dynamic there. You have a different relationship when you've got. I mean, think of Kimi and Toto. Well, I mean, Kimi's completely. He could be his grandchild.
Oh,
almost,
absolutely. Arm around his shoulder all the time.
Yeah.
Yes, support.
So it's a father-son kind of relationship. Whereas where you've got the same age, you can see eye to eye, talk directly to the person because you're all in an equal experience. Let's say.
How different is it nowadays? Can you imagine all those difficult team principles you had, the Flavio Briatores of the world? They only focused on one car. Now, both cars are the same. The support of both drivers, I think, they try and make it balanced. And it's a very different world than what it was when I started. There was always a slight imbalance, I found, through my Formula 1, 10, 11 years of Formula 1. And it's a nicer place to be, I think, from a driver because you do have the support.
The question is it better from a performance point of view?
Yeah.
That's the key bit, isn't it? Because their job is to get the best performance out of both drivers. If they are emotionally crushing one of their drivers, they're kind of cutting the team in half.
Yeah.
And I see that with some team principles, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but the Senna Prost with Ron, that was tough to manage, wasn't it?
But that's my point, is that they were of a similar age or generation, and they could stand up to each other. I think it's very difficult for a young driver. I mean, you see it with Flavio because he's obviously a lot older than the people. I mean, they're poor drivers are kind of like, they get such a roasting. Yeah. And I just don't think there's any kind of ability to try and get the best out of that driver with that management style. I mean, Toto saw recently said, when Nico and Lewis crashed into each other in the year that Nico
Barcelona.
won.
Yeah.
I mean, he apparently said he sacked them both. So in other words, they both knew he could do that. Yeah. If you carry on like this for the team, you're both out. Yeah. Not one or the other. No, sure. Which I think was a very advanced, let's say, progressive kind of approach to team management. We don't like it as drivers because we like to do what we want. But the fact is, the team employs
again,
you.
it's always a character, isn't it? There's always different. Nigel was a character in a very, very different way. It's the same with Prost and Senna. So there's always going to be those characters. Yeah. The team principal has to try and
We've got so many good questions, but we've only done 2. Yes. So thank you, Brian, for that one. That got us going a bit.
Yeah, okay. Right.
How are we getting on? You want to read the next one?
Forget is the next one.
Yeah.
We've got here. Right. How much does a driver really spend off track working with the team engineers on the car? And how does it compare now to when you were racing many, many years ago? And on a similar note, River Trollin ask, what did preparing for a Grand Prix look like in 1996? Walk us through a week or days leading up to the race weekend.
Okay, so very simply, they've banned testing or reduced testing to just pre-season tests, and maybe in the middle of the season that they have a day or 2 or something. Yeah. So we would be endlessly testing. Yes. So that we didn't have simulators. So the only way to find out whether the team was making progress or to try things out was to go to track. So when we got home, we didn't spend ages on a simulator. We were done, weren't we?
Simulator? A simulator.
A simulator.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't have them.
We didn't have them. No.
I mean, you literally. But now I believe they have their own simulators at home.
Yes.
And so, as well as if they don't go to the factory, they can do it. They can rehearse what they're doing. Yeah. All the time. Maybe that's a help, but at the same time, they are obliged to do quite a lot of extra time. So preparation for a race would be a simulator, I guess, today, wouldn't it be mostly? Yes. And going through with the engineer approach. I mean, we used to have like one phone call. I think the engineer, I'd phone my engineer and go, what are we going to do? I don't know. We'll do what we did in the test. Yes. It was about that. Was about the extent of it.
Yeah. No, the testing, I always remember doing Adelaide at the end of the year, as it was. And then 2 days later, I was at Silverstone doing a 3-day test. And then it all basically went through the whole of the winter off season before you got to the first race.
And in the gym.
So mostly fitting that in between.
I was spending a lot of time physically getting prepared because it was quite physical when we were racing, and I'm sure that they're superbly fit, but they've got whole teams of trainers and goodness.
The whole science is a lot better.
I had Erwin Goldner from Austria. He's still around. Erwin, if you're out there.
Yes. So I remember the very early days of a certain energy drink, very early days of it. And I remember taking it, and I think it was absolutely really sugar. That's all it was. And it was like I'd have a cup of tea. I was like a tap. Literally, I'd drink a litre, and I'd go to the bathroom just before the race.
A litre of energy drink?
A litre of energy drink, yes. Wait. And then I go to the toilet.
This is before the race?
Just before the race. Yeah, I'm just giving you a bit of an idea. Yes, but then I'd go into the toilet, and I would do gallons. Yeah. Gallons of it just seems to go in, and it grew as it went inside, and it just came out, and it was all.
You mean when you say energy drink, you don't mean the kinds you get in a can that look.
No.
Sometimes green, sometimes red.
Isotonic. No. Isotonic-y drinks.
Oh, okay.
Very early days.
Yeah, well, because your body's saying you got too much of this stuff.
Well, it was awful stuff. It was terrible stuff. It wasn't very good. Well, now it's beautiful, crafted for me, and then it's done for you as well and everybody else.
So the science has moved on a bit. When we were doing it, I think we were trying out stuff, and there was carbo loading and stuff. Do you remember that one? So anyway, after whatever how many years I'd been in F1, I went back to saw my old dentist, and he said, "What have you been doing?" Because basically it rots your teeth.
Your teeth, right? Yeah.
It was like drinking sugar.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I remember the other thing, and it always was is pasta. Pasta's very good because it takes a long time to sort of break down. It's good for energy and everything else. But I nearly used to fall asleep at the wheel.
Yeah,
because it's terrible stuff. Yeah, actually, pasta was probably the worst.
Because you get insulin spikes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was terrible. But it was the thing. Everybody said, "Yeah, pasta." That was the big thing. But it wasn't like that. But a weekend was quite simple. I think going through to a Grand Prix, because there was a little bit of sponsorship stuff that you had to do for the sponsors. The small teams, not so much. But when I went to Benetton, I remember there was off-season sponsor visits that you had to do if it was a skiing resort or wherever it may have been. It was the big teams that really did use the drivers, where I think nowadays every team uses the drivers way more than they did in my period. That's for sure.
Honestly,
it's insane sometimes.
It's insane. It's down to the minute. Right, Chirag Shah. My question to both Damon and Johnny is: would either of you have liked to drive the F1 cars of this current regulation? Quick answer:
no.
Moving on. So, thanks for that question.
I think that's another. Yeah.
Chirag. Louis Lapointe, 74. Do you think there are too many races now? What do you think about the sprint races? Back in the day, 16 races seemed enough. There's two questions there. Are there too many races?
I would probably say, from a driver's perspective, no. From a engineers, mechanics perspective, yes, because I think they spend so much time away. The mechanics I had when I was in the 1990s didn't have family, didn't have kids.
No.
So for them, going away, doing 16 races, but all those testing days, 30 days testing that we did, wasn't such a big deal. Now the fact they have a lot of families within those mechanics and engineers and everything else, that is a huge burden on their relationships that they get. And because the season is so long, when we race, we had Australia, Japan, Canada, sometimes we do America, but not very often, and then Brazil.
Yeah,
everything else was in Europe.
Yeah,
and the testing was in Europe.
Yeah, so there's no jet lag and all that.
There was no jet lag, so it was much easier. Yes.
I mean, honestly, more than the number of races, it's the jet lag.
Yeah.
I mean, for the teams, and I agree with you. I think so. Do you remember when they brought in the extra 22 races? When they went up to 22 races, and people were going, "This is going to be destroying relationships and families." And he said,
sure.
"Oh, his response was, well, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen." Effectively. So I thought that was not a good answer.
No, not a good answer. No,
but because you have to have two different. You have to the teams have to rotate.
Yes,
and they've got obligations to their employees not to overwork them and to make their life hell.
And there is one difference as well nowadays compared to when we were racing. I remember at Lotus and even Benetton where there were 24-hour stints done during a race weekend, sometimes 48 hours because they had to change an engine. There was a problem, and they couldn't do that. Now they have so much downtime.
They have a curfew.
Yeah, the curfew. Yeah. So the downtime is
much
easier.
Yes, you see them go.
Well, you're doing around the track, they're doing their jogging, they're cycling.
Right.
Yes,
can't work now. I'm not allowed to.
Well, they do. They ship their bikes all the way every single circuit that they go to.
Every evening at the bikes, they've all got these cyclists, and you find out who's really into their cycling and running. And anyway,
that never used to happen.
Sprint races.
That never used to happen.
No, that did. They were too busy. I mean, they didn't have downtime.
No, exactly.
Right. Sprint races, good, bad?
Sprint races, I don't mind them. I think they're just an extra little addition to the weekend. Sometimes it actually spices up Sunday's race as well. So there's a sort of little twist sometimes that comes into play. I don't mind it.
I have a proposition about. I mean, I agree. I don't want to watch FP1 and 2. I mean, it's meaningless. It's just
totally.
like watching testing.
It's an engineer's
Yeah,
data
it's
collection.
not entertaining. So I'd rather see them do one session and then go straight into qualifying. In fact, I'd get rid of the session, just go straight into qualifying.
Yeah. I would. Yes, I would.
Just go right. You've done all the prep.
Yeah, you've been on the sim for hours and hours.
You've had God knows how many you're tested within millimeters.
You know the circuit. You know everything.
Get on with it.
Absolutely, get on with it. I totally agree.
So it sounds brutal, but I think one thing I will say is I think that the problem with the sprint is a good thing they changed the rules about the tyres because it does change a little bit of the qualifying outcome. But it's almost like you've got the race is three thirds, and the first third is on the Saturday.
Yeah.
and then the second 2/3 are on the Sunday. That's the only problem.
Yeah, sure.
With it. It kind of predicts what's going to happen.
Yes. Right, carrying on at Ben Drew 2. How do cars go from good to bad? From balanced to undrivable between races? It seems that every race the drivers are complaining that it was competitive at one weekend and then it's not competitive at the other weekend. What is it that changes when we're driving the car?
Yeah, so the added bit, doesn't the team know what changes they've made and how the track is different? And I think he's hit on the key factor, which is the track is different.
Yep.
The track is really, really important to performance because it changes every time a car goes past. It leaves a bit of rubber on the road.
Sure.
And it depends how long that rubber has been on the road. If it's there a week, it's no longer there probably. It's probably perished and bit blown away in the wind, or it's been covered in dust or something. So
or
the track,
rained. Yep.
Wind direction changes, the humidity changes, the track temperature changes. So really that is I think the biggest fundamental is that it's a moving target. And then you throw in the fact that it's a human being driving the car. And the cars are always pulled apart and put back together, and they will insist that the car is identical.
Yes.
We could put the car, it's perfect. We'll put it in the truck and then we'll get it out tomorrow and then it's undrivable.
Yes.
So what is the difference? And I do think that we have to accept that humans, the drivers, we have quite a wide operating range that sometimes changes quite a bit. And of course, the best drivers, they're able to repeat the performance at a much higher level and more consistently than others. But I do think we have to accept that sometimes we're just not awake. Sometimes drivers are a little bit, they're not as finely tuned.
No.
But
I do remember having a spare car. Remember the old spare cars we used to have in the back of the garage, where you'd have a problem in qualifying, for example, and then you'd run back, or I'd hobble back, get back to the spare car, jump in the spare car, and go a second and a half slower. And all it was the mechanics had focused just on the race car, and the spare car was never really. It was sort of basically set up, but it was never really fully prepared. So when it went on track, it was absolutely hopeless. They've learnt and got better. Now, of course, we don't have spare cars anyway. But I think the preparation was probably missing back in the 90s. But the one thing advantage I think they have nowadays is with all the simulations that they do and the way that the cars are prepared. And you said about they sort of you strip it down, put it back together again. But they're pretty good nowadays, I have to say. The performances are pretty level. Yes, we're always going to complain, aren't we? We're always going to say it's either understeering or oversteering or the car's a bit loose here, there, or wherever it may be. But that's just the way things change with the temperatures, as you explained, and the way the tyre pressures are and everything else. Well, one thing that's very different as well is when you go to Silverstone, for example, and then you may go to Monaco for the next race, the compounds are very different. And we hear very, very often that one driver or one team works on a medium tyre and one team works on a harder tyre, but it's not always the same at different tracks. So again, the tyre compound makes a huge difference to how that particular car works as well. And
also where the tyres were produced, what day they were produced on.
Yeah, the batch
because
and else,
Pirelli obviously tried to produce a standard which is consistent as possible from moment to moment. But of course, you don't make all the tyres at the same time.
Nope.
So they could be a variation in the tyres. And the tyres are so important. The temperature of the tyres, the performance of the tyres is so critical to that temperature.
Yeah.
You're looking for... you're trying to, let me just think of a good analogy. I mean, you are really trying to thread, a piece of cotton through a very small eye of the needle. Yeah. And it's so easy to just get it wrong side of that. Anyway, yeah, it's a mystery.
Well, there's a lot of variables. There's a hell of a lot of variables.
And, but I will add this one story, which is, we used to go around Barcelona a lot, testing, and we would come away quickest and the car was perfect. And we come back here and the car was all over the place. And I remember Patrick Head coming in and going, we spent all this money on testing and we come back here and we're completely useless. How does this happen? Which is a fair point, Patrick.
Yes.
But I think hopefully we explained why. Because you test in January and you go back in May or June or something. It's completely different.
Oh, completely different.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, so the variables are really big.
It's not the driver.
Really big
is
thing.
what
No.
Never the driver.
Well, you did allude to it.
I did allude
That was
to
a
it, but
silly
I
thing
should
to
have
say.
done. Should have done that. But I've retired now, so I can do that. I can do it. I can admit to those things. Questions about our careers. We've got some questions about our careers.
Okay.
Alex Schlesinger has posted a really interesting one. You both had discussion with Ron Dennis and McLaren for drives. I never knew you did, but anyway, apparently you did have a conversation with Ron.
I did go to the old factory. Yeah.
Okay. Any regrets in not trying to make it work? Do you think your careers would have significantly changed had you ended up trying to make a deal? Or do you think you would have been driven crazy by Ron's ... eccentricities? What do you mean, Alex, by that? We'll ask, we'll get to the bottom of this one. What does he mean? Eccentricities?
Very complicated man, but you can't take anything away with what he achieved as a team principal. He did some amazing championship wins. He always got the sponsors on board. He always looked after the sponsors. What I think in many respects, what we see in the paddock of Formula One is what Ron created. He was so meticulous with everything that happened in the factory, but everything and the look of what you had when you're in the paddock. So he was very special from that point of view.
If eccentricity means perfectionism to the extent where it drives everyone completely mad because you can never get to perfection, then I think that's probably one of his strengths in a way. Because
I think so. It's a big strength.
Ron, I remember, was on the cover of Time magazine or something. It said, "Is this the most successful manager in the world?" or something. It was something to that effect, you know. And from a business point of view, he was exceptional in getting deals and selling the team and polishing that McLaren thing to being this unassailable team. It was at one point, virtually unassailable. But yes, very awkward to deal with in the sense that he never gave you the sense that in my experience, he didn't give me the sense that he really wanted me there.
Okay.
And,
right.
And there was an opportunity to go there.
Yes.
And I concluded, I got very close, but I concluded, look, if he doesn't want me there, do I want to be there in a situation where I'd been through that with Williams, where I'd been trying to get the sense that they actually thought I was worth keeping. And after leaving, being asked to leave, I concluded, I'm not putting myself through that again. I'm only going to go somewhere if someone wants me to be there. Yeah. Anyway, and I didn't get that sense with Ron, so I politely declined.
Yeah. I never got that close actually to signing anything. I went to the old factory, Woking, and I remember waiting outside. Secretary said that you can go in. Ron was ready. I remember the door opening. Ron was there behind his desk. And I was expecting, "Morning, Johnny. How are you? How's the family? Lovely weather out there. Welcome to McLaren." And the first words that came out of his mouth were, "I need to change you."
Yeah. For another driver.
So that didn't really sort of go down very well in my mind. So within 10 seconds, I'd already made up my mind. I couldn't work here with the team. And we carried on. We discussed, walked around the factory and everything else. But Ron, I have to say, and I think Mika Häkkinen is probably the best example I can use, where he moulded Mika into a little bit of a Ron, a little bit of Ayrton, but then that worked perfectly because he supplied Mika what he needed from the team and the car to be able to produce what he did on the racetrack.
I think Mika completely understood Ron. I think he thought he'd just do whatever Ron said.
But it worked.
But at the same time, do whatever he wanted.
Yes, but it worked.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's where Ron was very much trying to create and mould this special human, special driver. And I think with someone like Mika personally, I think it worked out really, really well. So.
The one of the part of the questions is, do you have regrets of not trying to make it work?
No, I thought I sort of answered that. I have 10 seconds. No, I don't.
Well, I did have regrets because the moment I put the phone down to him and said, you can stick it where the sun doesn't shine, I phoned him back about 10 minutes later and went, I might have been a bit hasty. But anyway, it was too late then.
I didn't know that latter bit. I didn't know that latter bit.
I completely lost my nerve.
I like that. That's really good. But I get, again, we go back to what he achieved. He achieved some brilliant stuff from that. Right. So Ben Kelly, next question we got here. Johnny. Oh, it's mine. What victory did you enjoy more? Silverstone with Benetton or Nürburgring with Stewart? What one do you think?
I don't know the answer to this, Johnny, because I'm not you.
I know.
You'll have to answer this one on your own.
The first one.
I didn't enjoy either of them because actually
Yeah, go on. Well, the first one, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
many thank yous to that one.
My pleasure.
With your little coming together with Michael. And then let's do Nürburgring. Yeah, what happened in Nürburgring for you?
I have no idea. I can't remember.
Yes, you do.
I don't remember.
Come on. You didn't finish. You didn't sort of last very long off the start.
Didn't
99. No, you can't remember?
No.
Jordan, no.
It's just like
being evasive.
This is like the Jack Nicklaus quote about three-putting. And the journalist said, what about the three-putt? He said, no, I never three-putt. And they said, no, I never three-putt.
He did bring that up the
So
other
I have
day.
no idea what you're talking about.
No, he did bring that up the other day, didn't he, Jack? With the golf, with the Masters, with Rory.
the Masters.
Yeah.
So explain to me what happened at the Nürburgring, because I don't remember.
Well, I think you your teammate, especially, I think he was leading the race.
Oh, I know.
Yes, come on. Yes.
Is this
He
the one with
left the pits.
Yeah.
And he didn't sort of do the right things when he left the pits.
Oh, no, there was this thing we were supposed to turn off.
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
everyone
go on,
was-
share. Yeah, go on, share. Got there in the end.
It's
this
some
thing.
launch
What's this thing?
control thing.
Right, okay. Was that legal then?
It was legal. It was just you had to turn it off when you'd done a couple of laps, and I forgot. Oh, Pedro Denise, I went slowing. This is relevant.
Oh,
as
that's
far
right.
as,
Yes, because it was the
Yeah,
crash,
this is
wasn't
relevant
it?
actually. So we're talking about you. If you answer this question, because this is.
Yeah, well,
Ben Kelly needs his question.
Yeah, so
Which one did you enjoy?
Silverstone, because it was the first.
You enjoyed
the
Silverstone.
first win.
And it's the
British Grand Prix.
British Grand
and your
Prix.
home
Well
Grand
done.
Prix.
I
Of
remind-
course.
yeah, well
Thank
done.
you very much.
And so the
Reminded
other
me.
thing is that this the reason that Johnny's alluding to, trying to embarrass me with this thing, is because there was some sort of device that we're supposed to turn off, and it had to control the clutch in some way. I can't remember what it did, but anyway, you did it at the start, and then you're supposed to turn it off. Otherwise, the engine shuts down. Well, what happens? I'm going down to turn one. The engine shuts down. I'm going, what's going on? Of course, Pedro Denise was behind me.
Yeah.
And this is reminiscent of what happened with Ollie Behrman and Colapinto in Japan. Is suddenly I slowed down and he went over the top of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I thought I'd killed him.
Yeah.
You know, it was horrible. I just poor old Pedro went over the top of me, and he was my teammate in Arrows and stuff. And I just thought, and he went upside down and stuff. And I think at that moment I decided I don't want to do this anymore. If I'm going to be making crass mistakes like that, I do not want to hurt fellow drivers and stuff. So,
Yeah.
But you won because Frentzen stopped.
Well, Ralph had a puncture. I remember.
Was it
so
Ralph?
He did it. Ralph had a puncture.
Oh, so Ralph.
That's right.
This is-
Fisichella sort
Yeah.
of kept sort of whizzing in the track and then off the track. And I think on his third off, he actually didn't come back again. And then that made me sort of win the race,
Right, well, I
which
hope
was
that's
quite nice
clear
in those
anyway.
tricky conditions.
Right.
Tricky conditions. Yeah.
Bit of a diversion. To a simple
diversion.
question with a very complicated answer.
Yes.
Right, King Arthur, 32-36. Wasn't that 10? No, when was King Arthur? It was 800
Yeah, that's
AD
way
or something.
before.
Wasn't it?
Yes.
Based on driving the car in pre-season testing, how accurately could you predict how well your season was going to go? What was the biggest case of underperforming that prediction in your respective careers? All right. So, in other words, do you know immediately? Yes, they always say that the car, if it's quick out of the box, is always going to be quick.
What's quick out of the box? What is quick out of the box?
Well, you go
I'm
to
gonna
a
test
track
you on this
and
one.
you're quicker than everyone without doing anything to the car.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
yes.
you just
but when
go
did you
drive around.
feel it was like
Famously with
This is
Jensen
good.
and the double diffuser,
Yes.
he knew immediately.
immediately?
Yeah, he didn't
Yes.
think he'd gone that quickly, but they told him he was
You
about 3
can.
seconds
I
behind.
think you can feel within a couple of laps. Sometimes it's either good or it's just not any better than what we've had before.
What about-
So you can feel pretty much how the car is feeling straight out of the box, but within the first couple of laps, I think.
What about if you get a car that is really nice to drive, but it's bog slow?
That's horrible.
You come in, they go, "What is it like?" And you go, "Oh, it's really good." And they go, "So we're about 10 seconds off the pace."
Yes.
Then you go, "Oh, God."
Yeah. The only thing that's good for is the wet.
Right.
It's the only time that really, if it is slow, it does actually go quite well when it's in the wet. I don't know that from the 102 when I was at Lotus, it was rubbish in the dry, but it was damn
I can
good
tell
in the
you
wet.
on that answer on that particular question, the first time I drove the FW18, I knew this was a fantastic car.
Yeah.
It was just so well balanced. Anyway, moving on. Right.
Well, I'm going to finish up quickly there because about a car that wasn't any good straight out of the box and struggled like hell was the Jaguar. Absolutely
It looked
thing.
awful.
It was awful in the cockpit. It should have come in the cockpit. It was
I mean, you didn't have to drive it to know that.
No, it was horrible. That was a horrible thing. So again, you knew quite early on, we ain't going to have a good one this one. Yeah. No one. Okay.
Christian Cabanca.
Ben, this is for you.
Hey, Damon. Hey, Christian. In the 1998 Argentinian Grand Prix, you and Johnny crashed into each other.
No. Rephrase that.
Hey?
Damon crashed into Johnny. I think that's right.
Well, I'm just reading his question.
No, I know that. I'm just correcting. I'm correcting
quite
his
clearly.
question.
Johnny crashed into each other.
Yes.
You and which we did. It takes two to tangle.
No, you did.
Takes two to tangle, Johnny. My question is, who was at fault for that crash, and is there any animosity between the two of you about that crash? Thank you. There is no animosity, is there, Johnny?
I've never let it go.
No, you haven't.
I was going to win that race.
Very angry and bitter
We were
man.
fighting
and we have, I
for
think,
9th and
got
10th.
the interview with you after the race where you made your feelings abundantly clear, and you've never forgiven me.
Damn right.
More news from Louise Goodman, Johnny Herbert.
Johnny, how did that happen? It looked like Damon just piled into the back of you.
Well, once again, someone's hit me in exactly the same corner, and Damon's just should have enough experience. You know you don't do it from that far back because, you know, he's ruined my race and he probably ruined his a bit.
I think you wish you stayed at home this weekend.
I think I should have stayed the whole of South America at home. It's been a total disaster so far. Well, so far. The only thing that can go wrong now is the plane crash on the way home.
I hope that doesn't happen, Johnny. Bad luck.
There you go.
But you love me now.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I still have. That
No,
little
I've got
shot
the
that you.
text.
There's a little shot of it.
This is the
You
text.
drove
You sent me
in the
the
back of
text.
me
We were discussing it.
and took myself out of the race with damaged suspension, where you just changed your little nose after ramming me and carried on. Didn't finish probably anywhere near the points for sure. But I thought it was very amateurish.
Ouch.
Outbreaking yourself like you did, because you should have been very aware of who was in front of you.
So if you were a driver steward, you would have penalised me, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Completely.
Absolutely,
For
completely. And rightly
ruining
so.
your race.
And rightly so.
But anyway, Johnny Herbert, I was coming through the pack and you had me over, Hill, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. So I said, nasty, please forgive me. And then, okay, you're forgiven just this once. There.
That was yesterday.
I'm going to bring
It's
that
a
up in
fresh
court.
day.
I've been
It's
forgiven.
a fresh day, though.
Right.
It happens. Hey, it happens.
You know the rules. If you have an accident, never say anything.
especially if
You might-
someone drives in the back of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, right.
Insurance,
Well,
insurance.
if it
Exactly.
was my
So
fault,
anyway.
which I'm not admitting, then I apologise.
See, I knew you
'Cause
wouldn't admit
I
it.
like to have you as a friend, not
Oh,
as,
okay,
not
right
as
then.
someone who's peed off with me.
No, so. Right, Richard Royal. I'm going to do this one for you. So, Damon, do you feel your early world champion teammates, Mansell, Prost, Senna, were of benefit to you coming into F1?
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, if you're going to go on stage with, in F1, then go on stage with the biggest names,
best.
and then you've got a chance of, if you take a scalp off one of those guys, then that's an accolade, isn't it? That's something you can parade around and go, well, how about that?
Yeah.
So I obviously Senna, I never got to the end of that one, so I never know where I would have measured up. But it would seem pretty obvious to me he was going to whip my arse, because he was very quick. But
He was very quick. I got a question on this one.
Yeah.
Which one of those, Mansell, Prost, Senna, did you learn something from? that
you learn a
carried
little bit
on?
from everyone. I mean, I think one of the problems is I learned a lot from watching them before I even got to the team.
Yes, of course.
So I sort of felt like I knew what they were about before I even was teammates with them. But you do, they were really professional. I mean, they were proper sports people. They didn't hand anything to you on a plate, but at the same time, they didn't seem to me to be out to make your life uncomfortable in any other way than just going faster than you. So I really have massive respect for all of them. And I think Mansell, I do think Mansell does not get the recognition
No, I agree.
that he deserves for his abilities. You know, he
To
was
wrestle Carl.
and a bravery and incredible
everything
speed.
goes with it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So one of the biggest names, I think. Yes, he had these occasional moments where he maybe didn't do the right thing, but mostly, what a great racing driver.
Yeah. Totally so. Yes, there was always a wow factor.
Wow
Nigel,
factor,
that's
yeah.
for sure.
Great for the show.
Exactly.
Andy Villa, GB. Hi both. Please could I ask you both what was so great about F1 when you were racing? As someone who loves old F1, I feel the F1 of today is badly missing something that was there in the 90s. So I wondered if you had any ideas as to how it was all better in your day. This is a trap question, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. It was always better.
It was always better in the
racing.
old days, exactly. Which is what this generation would be saying in the
Completely.
sort of 15 to 20 years' time. Oh, it was better back then.
No,
Better
but
back
I mean,
then.
really, I get your point, Andy. You know, I think that the world was totally different in the 1990s.
Technology was different.
It wasn't. Anyway, we have the world as we have it now, and I think that the lack of interference from technology. I remember when I was leaving F1 in the end of the 90s, the engineer was doing most of the work on the computer and he wasn't talking to me. So previous to that, it was, I talk to my engineer, he has a notepad and he writes down what I've said. Yeah. And increasingly I felt the encroachment of the computer meant that dialogue was lost because they had the data. They didn't need to talk to the driver. So the driver's input became less and less, and to the point where today we have the engineers telling the drivers how to drive.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's what we want. I don't know if that's what we want to see.
That's not the skill of the driver.
Yeah.
The skill of the driver should be just that raw feeling. Because when I went into Formula One, I had one button on my steering wheel. When the engineer wanted to talk to me, I had to stop outside the garage. He'd come along with his little plug, pull the plug from my helmet, plug it in. We'd have a chat, and then he'd unplug it, and I'd go on the circuit. And I didn't hear from anybody because obviously we'd had no wireless communication back in those days. But the computer, who was the computer back then where we data? I think there was probably a speed trace, throttle trace,
revs,
potentially a revs, and a brake, and a brake trace, and that was it. The computer was us. We were the ones who were feeling what was going on and then feeding that back to the engineer, which I think from a driver's perspective is more fun. And you're more connected with the car, but with the team, with the engineer. When now the technology, and I totally understand where the technology and why the technology has gone so far advanced as it has today, because perfection is much closer to happening, where in the old days it didn't quite. There was a compromise on a setup, for example, when tracks were quite bumpy. We don't have bumpy tracks anymore, but if there was a bump going into Copse Corner, just for example, you'd have to probably change the spring to absorb that bump that was on the circuit. But then it would actually be worse on faster corners because you're softer sprung. So there was that compromise that used to be an important part of it. But the engineers just want perfection. If there's ever a bump nowadays, that bump has to be ironed out and taken away. But I think that's character.
The drivers want perfection as well. I mean, how many times do you hear drivers talking about, that's the perfect lap? You're aiming for perfection. But the point is,
we always were.
I think the word here that we're looking for is art. In other words, there was a thing called the art of driving. And that was, some people had an instinct for it and others didn't. And they were then revered as being artists on the track. And my dad famously quoted as saying, the track is, the car is my brush and the track is my canvas. He literally thought of it in terms of painting. Yeah. And I think that that now I feel drivers are slightly frustrated. They feel a little bit like they are being coached all the time. And I listen to the radio communications and I go, why don't they just tell them to shut up and leave them? And they do tell them to shut up and leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Kimmy famously.
Those characters are gone.
Raikkonen, not Antonelli. But, I think that, but every generation accepts the new paradigm and they get on with what they've got. Yeah. And so I'm not saying it's different. It is different, obviously. But it's not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying things have changed and you cannot put the genie back in the bottle. And the genie is computing power. and data and technology.
I'd try and put him back in the bottle, and I'd try and put him in the bottle and say on a Friday, teams, do what you want, collect as much data as you want. Saturday, do what you want. Sunday, that is the best we've been able to create. Over to you. And do it on the old style way. You have your briefing before the race, your strategy briefing. You get into the race, and then it's down to the driver having to think about it, change his style.
You're putting
to
all
the
these
conditions
strategists
that are
out of the
going
job,
in.
you know.
Well, no, they're still part of it because they're still part of the weekend.
Okay.
You're still going to have that strategy meet, but as far as still having that communication, less of it, because I think there's too much communication of making the strategy too perfect all the time. We don't always want perfect.
Well, this is a real problem. It's the closer you get to perfection, the less variation you get, and the less interest you get. So in other words, in a way, what we want is people to make mistakes.
Yes,
because that makes it unpredictable.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's a discussion on the eras, the contrasting eras. But I would encourage Andy to watch races. I think there's still. I still find them. I get excited watching. I get excited before a race starts.
Yeah.
I like to see what's going to happen, I like to see cars being driven by these guys who are brilliant at what they do.
I still think the very best drivers have the sort of bigger capacity to get the best out of the cars. It's different, the way the whole strategy works and the way the energy deployment and everything else is. You've got to learn how to do that. So it's just a different tool set, I suppose, than it used to be. But it's a good question. Right. Question for you, Damon, here. It's from Barney Woodbridge. In an alternative world where the Adelaide 1994 collision sends Michael Schumacher out, but your car is able to be fixed with you rejoining in 6th, do you think Nigel Mansell would have dropped back to 6th, giving up a win for you to get 5th and win the World Championship? This is a little bit like the scenarios talked about with Piastri in Abu Dhabi last year.
What's the expression? If my auntie had, she'd be my uncle. Obviously in there, but in the interest of an entertaining, very good question, by the way.
Very
I have
good
to say
question.
that was an interesting.
Yes.
I'm
fascinated on the
never
answer.
thought about whether that would have come up, but let's say we're in that situation now. Would Nigel
would he have given it up?
So he uses the example of Piastri in Abu Dhabi last year. Slightly different. I mean, I think it's an interesting comparison.
Yeah.
I was thinking also of Sterling Moss and Mike Hawthorne, where he could have protested because Mike Hawthorne got a push, and if he'd been penalised or something, then Sterling Moss could have been a world champion. Yeah. Anyway, so would Nigel? Well, put it this way. I would have hated for him to have been put in that situation.
But you would have expected him.
Yeah, I would have expected him to do the right thing.
And do we expect Nigel to do the right thing? Yeah.
Is that the right thing to do? I know your obligation is to yourself, isn't it, as a racing driver, to do whatever But I mean, that would have been a great thing. Patrick or Frank coming on the radio.
Can you imagine?
Nigel, can you please... This is Frank, by the way. It's Frank's voice. Nigel, please drop back and give Damon the point. Then whatever.
Yeah.
I
can't hear you.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. We've got something wrong with my ears.
He'd have Patrick.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now. Let Damon pass.
Oh, radio's broken. I think I'm unconscious.
Again, that would be the story, wouldn't
Sorry,
it?
Nigel. We're having fun at
we
your
love
expense,
you, absolutely.
Anyway.
Yes, but it would have been a wonderful scenario.
It would have been
to watch.
Thankfully, it never happened.
No, exactly that. So yeah.
Right then, moving on.
Yeah, would you have been robbed twice on that one?
robbed twice.
Oh dear, right. Go on then, let's carry on. Next one. Good question though. Well done, Barney. Right, the other one. Okay.
Go on then. At Goose TG98, what's the scariest crash you went through? Do you process crashes? Do you process crashes in slow motion? Meaning, can you recall the moments leading up to the point of impact? Over to you, Johnny.
I know. Yeah. Yes. I've sort of went through a little a little crash goose. Brands Hatch, 1988. Slow motion. I got tagged from behind by Gregor Wojtek, absolute idiot, and that sent me off into the barrier head on.
It's available on YouTube.
It is on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's very spectacular.
It's quite
it's not
scary.
just me who goes off. There's about another 20 cars.
Oh my
that sort of
God, you did it properly.
Going off as well. I did it properly.
Yeah.
I think it was only 6 left.
But you are
I think.
sitting here talking to us now, entertaining us.
Yes.
And we love your company, Johnny. And
Yeah.
I swear to God, honestly, it was an awful time for
It wasn't nice.
For all of us who knew you,
yeah.
and it was much worse for you.
Yes, yeah, much worse. Yes, well, again, the damage to my ankles was immense, and I was so lucky, and that goes back to Peter Collins, who gave me that chance at Benetton to finish 4th in my first Grand Prix when I wasn't really, I wouldn't call it a walk. It was just a sort of a shuffle. So yes, but was it slow motion? Yes, it was very slow motion. Everything really does slow down in a very slow way as you go into the barrier on the left-hand side. I remember it spinning around, going head-on the other side with the front of the car already taken away, my legs hanging out the front, and then sort of stopping. And it all happened quickly, but the moment lasted, minutes. It's amazing how it was. Yeah. Even to this day? Yeah, even to this day. I had another one in Vallelunga where I my helmet actually hit the barrier when I was taken off by Gregor Wojtek as well. And my head batted the arm cut. And I still can't remember walking back across the track over the barrier into the medical centre. It's the first time I remember coming around when I was doing a urine test in a little bottle. So that one I don't remember. Brands Hatch, yes.
I also hit the barrier with my head.
I can't tell.
It hasn't affected me at all, has it? But that was in Knickerbrook at Alton Park.
Oh right, yes.
And I don't remember. All I remember is going up the curb.
Yeah.
But I do remember I woke up in a wreck in the middle of the track. But my helmet had a massive great gouge from the arm coat. So when you say, does it come back in slow motion? I don't remember anything about it. So no.
That one didn't work. No, they didn't.
But
no.
there was one that happened in testing at Williams that turned to flat out 6th gear corner at Estoril.
Yeah.
And it went round so quickly, I cannot remember it, the car reversing. It was, 1 minute it was going forwards, the next minute it's going backwards, and I just waited for the big bang.
Yeah.
And then I ricocheted across the road.
I remember doing one in front of you in Barcelona.
Then
my
the rear wing came off.
And same thing. And it just turned left so quickly. It's
just
amazing. It just turns.
Yeah.
Not drifts or anything. It just literally does turn left.
Yeah, flung you into the barrier. And then you went rolling down the road again.
Yeah, well, it sort of tried to fly, but then hit the barrier luckily, and then came back down again. But it lasted a long way. But that was part of it, unfortunately.
It's the guys who Peter Dumbrek and people like that, and Mark Webber who went flying in Le Mans,
flipping at Le Mans. Yeah,
they're incredible stories because, of course, the point is it goes silent.
Yes,
they were saying they're flying through the air and it's no noise. No, it must be absolutely terrifying.
Well, Peter Dambrek's really interesting because he landed and they'd taken some trees down, I think. Anyway, so they'd taken some trees down before the race, and he landed, but the tree stump went through the passenger side.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
How lucky is that? So
Mark landed back on the track on all 4 wheels. And drove back and said, "I've just done a 360 backflip."
Yeah,
and they didn't believe him.
No.
They said, "No,
Classic.
what have you done to the car?" I've done nothing. It's taken. It took off and went upside down. Anyway,
so
crashes are
not a good thing. No, and luckily with the technology we have nowadays,
which is the scariest.
Many of those.
That was
Brands Hatch.
Brands Hatch was the scariest for me. For me, I think the scariest probably the crashes I didn't have, which was driving in the wet at places like Spa, where you are scared, but you didn't crash. But only by pure fluke you didn't crash. I mean, anyway.
Remember the 96 start? Where the rain and everybody was just
cars.
Terrible. Yeah, it was just cars and wheels and everything going on. 96.
It's not much fun.
Remember that? 98.
Well done.
98.
God, we got an incredible
98.
Wikipedia, AI producer here. He can remember everything.
Yes. Thank goodness.
I did have a crash once where in testing, while we're on the subject.
Oh, yes.
Where I'd had get neck problems and stuff from whiplash and everything. And so I was coming in the pits and Fisichella decided to come in at the last minute in Barcelona, turn the last but one corner. And I had to avoid him. So I went left and straight into the barrier. And as I was heading into the barrier, I remember just thinking, this is going to be a big one. And I just thought, well, you can't fight it because you can't physically resist. So you just relax.
Yeah.
And I remember the seatbelts stretching and my neck being stretched as I went forward, and then it went pop. Like I was going to the chiropractor, and when I sat back, I was much better. when I sat there, I went, "That feels really good now."
Well, that's the first time I've heard a major crash, and you've actually felt better for it.
Literally, honestly, that was. So there's a benefit that came out of that.
Yeah, the benefit came out of that.
The car
one.
was wrecked, but my neck was better.
But yeah, nice one, Goose. Like that one.
Okay.
Right. So we got at the Wilbury 7. Was there ever a moment in your careers where you felt you weren't good enough, and how did you overcome it? If you
I never felt I was good enough. I still wonder.
Yeah.
How did I overcome it? Oh,
yeah. Did you overcome it?
No, I think the only way to overcome it is to look at the results.
Yeah, there is that. I can't fight this at all because it's not the same.
But you're the opposite to me. Because you were brilliant. You are brilliant.
Yeah.
But you were brilliant. But you didn't have any doubts about your speed because it was obvious to everyone that you were an incredible talent.
Yeah.
And you still are.
Yeah.
John.
Thank you very much.
Yes. But for that stupid bloke and Brands Hatch, I mean, what could have been? But the point is, I do think it's interesting because there are two states of mind to be competitive, and I remember they did I think Marlboro, a tobacco brand that we don't talk about. We don't do anymore. But there was a cigarette brand, I should say. I won't mention the name. Right, erase that bit. So there was a company that sold cigarettes that were involved in motorsport in a big way, and they commissioned a sports psychologist to come up with some observations about racing drivers. And they analysed people like Alan Prost and so forth. And they concluded that the drivers who were best had doubts about their abilities. And they were always trying to find ways to be better. Whereas if you have utter confidence, then the presumption is that you've got nothing to learn. And that's a mistake. So
absolutely.
I think that doubts about your ability in some ways can be a good thing. But you must show confidence.
Yeah.
In other words, you have to have confidence in your abilities that you do have, and it's a delicate balance between being overconfident and being so doubtful that you can't perform.
Yeah, and it's that willing to keep learning as well. Because I go to what Alan Prost said after his last race. I was still learning something up till the last lap of my last race.
Yeah,
and you're always learning something, and you're trying to sort of perfect yourself.
Yeah,
as much
someone
as you
explained to me once that the perfect is a verb. In other words, it is to perfect. In other words, it's a process where you come from a position and you want to be better. So it's a never-ending process. But you have to have faith in your ability to do that. Yeah. But anyway, it is an interesting whole subject. Yeah.
The only time I had that not good enough was at the end of my career. I decided I wasn't enjoying it anymore. That's it. How did I overcome it? I left.
But that's wisdom, isn't it? And that's experience coming in. I don't think that's a negative. I think
it's not a negative.
If your mind and your soul is telling you this is time to move on from this, then it's the right thing. You've listened to your voice.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Okay, nice one.
Last one, Johnny. Come on.
Okay, go on then. Right. Damon and Johnny, this is at Scene Artisan. Damon and Johnny, most hardcore F1 fans know about the Coulthard and Schumacher spat at Spa in 1998 when David got an angry visit from Michael in the pit lane. Did you ever get into any similar spats with other drivers, either as a victim or an aggressor, whether in F1 or earlier in your careers?
I don't remember too many, but I think when I was a young, slightly angry young man, I do remember having a guy I raced with in Formula Ford who crashed into me, and I was very annoyed with him. Yeah. And he was at Silverstone. We were at Silverstone, and he was walking away. We'd got out of our cars, and the race was still going on, and our cars were wrecked in the barriers. And he was walking back to the pits, and I was sort of chasing after him, shouting, "Are you idiot?" Blah blah. It didn't make any difference, did it? I mean, what's the point? So,
yes, yeah.
No, I'm a lover, not a fighter, Johnny. What are you?
Oh, yes. We all believe that one. Absolute toffee there. Me, the only time I remember was karting. I was British Championship, Felton, and was leading the race, and a driver behind knocked me out. I drove back, got to second, and then when we got into the pit lane, I just drove into the back of him. Did you? Quite literally just drove into the back of him.
You made your feelings known.
Yes, I had a bit of a shout and a scream, but that was sort of it. I was never really...
How old were you then?
12.
12. Perhaps you'd like to explain to our younger listeners that is not the way to behave, Johnny.
No, it's not the way to behave.
We would not,
but it was
advocating that as
But it was the right thing to do at the time.
it felt good.
It felt good. It felt good. Exactly. That was good. Yeah, not really. The only other great story I always have, I think it was Donington Park in Formula 3, I think it was. And it was Bertrand Gachot.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, you mentioned Bertrand. Bertrand's a lovely guy, by the way, now. I've had lots of lovely conversations with Bertrand since, but he was quite aggressive.
Oh, he's very aggressive,
and
yes.
he might have been one of those
Super
drivers in that cigarette survey psychological thing that we mentioned earlier,
big
who
time.
came out on the wrong side.
On the wrong, he still is on the wrong side.
Anyway, so he had abundance of confidence.
Marco Greco.
Yeah.
Do you remember Marco Greco?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah, Brazilian guy, really big and everything else. And I don't know what, something Bertrand did on track, probably just cut him off or put him on the grass or somewhere, or into the barrier, whatever it may be. But
which he did a lot of.
He did quite a, yes, you're right. Yes, you did. Yeah, you did. I've got another story, but I won't go into that one. So anyway, so he took him off, and Marco Greco then came to his garage to have a word with him.
Yeah.
But he had the jack handle. The big handle
for lifting the car
he
up.
went in there and basically sort of attacked him. He didn't actually whack him with it because there was just a brawl where everybody just jumped on top of both of them to stop them happening.
To stop them, not to join in punching.
Not to join in, but no. So that was a very close moment of being quite a messy pit lane in Donington Park. I remember that. So there are those characters that do come out, and of course seeing Michael, because he thought DC did it on purpose. That was really his beef with everything that happened in Spa, wasn't it?
You are pumped up when you're driving.
Massively.
So it is very easy to when you get out of the car and you've got all this energy, it needs to go somewhere. Sometimes it turns against someone. As you said, DC, well, Michael was really upset with DC in Spa. And I think he jumped out of the car in the garage, came in and wanted to have it out with DC, because DC was tooling along on the racing line in the wet, and he hit him. And not only did he put him out of the race, a race victory, but he also scared himself, I think, because he came out of the blue. I mean, I think probably more. Do you think it was more fear or anger? I think anger.
It probably would have been, but I'd say probably more anger. Actually.
You think it's just anger?
Initially the fear, the anger came because of the fear.
Furious, wasn't
furious,
and
absolutely.
So he had to be held back. Yeah. But of course, there are other incidents where we can recall where people like James Hunt, who he was biffed off or something. He was waiting on the side of the track in Montreal, I think, or Quebec, or somewhere in Canada, I think it was. And he was waiting on the side of the track to shake his fist at the driver who he was angry at. And the marshal
came up to drag him.
Yeah. And he swung round and knocked this guy clean out.
It was a proper...
And he poleaxed him.
Yes, he did.
And it was a hell of a blow. And then immediately realised he'd done an awful thing and went over and tried to apologise and compensate for the blow.
On the floor.
And, but then there's the Salazar PK handbags at dawn punching match with their helmets on.
Yes.
Which is a Hockenheim.
Legs and everything. Yes, it was quite good, wasn't it? Very hilarious.
So quite often you do look ridiculous. But Bertrand Gachot, just for people who are interested, look him up on Wikipedia. He did actually make it all the way to Brixton, Wandsworth Prison, I think it was.
He did, yes, he did, yes.
But that wasn't.
The taxi driver.
The taxi driver with the... Anyway, he's had an interesting life, Bertrand.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. Right, I've got another special question for you here.
Yeah.
Coming your way. Right, so compare Michele. Damon, did you really win the British Grand Prix whilst driving around with a Scotch egg in your cockpit? Gifted to you by Bob Mortimer. True or false?
Okay, so there is. Would I lie to you? What's the quiz show? For those of you who don't know what it is,
it's a quiz show. It's a TV quiz show,
show.
And it's Would I Lie to You?
I once helped Damon Hill to Grand Prix success by presenting him with a pre-race snack.
David's team. Well, it certainly tripped off the tongue.
Thank you.
What was the snack?
A Scotch egg.
I get asked this all the time. I mean, people are interested in whether you won the World Championship or not. They just want to know whether did Bob Mortimer give you a Scotch egg? Right. So he's in the Williams motorhome. I invited him along because I liked Vic and Bob. And so he's there with his girlfriend, partner, and they're in his motorhome, and he's eating a Scotch egg. And so I walked past and said, "Oh, Bob, how you doing?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I've got this is my Scotch egg. It's a lucky Scotch egg. Would you like it?" That is true. That's what happened. So he offered me a lucky Scotch egg.
Okay.
And I think I accepted in so far as the gesture was accepted. I did not race with a Scotch egg in my car. But that little bit it says he's right. It is true. But it wasn't. Get out of your mind that I'm driving around with a Scotch egg.
I'm disappointed now.
I know.
Really
anyway, there is some
disappointed.
truth, like everything. There's some truth to it. There's a germ of truth. There's a Scotch egg of truth in it.
Yes, you actually did touch the egg.
I didn't. It was eating it.
You never even got it.
It's food, you know. Didn't put it in my pocket.
Second hand. Well, that was the thing. I thought you'd just shove it in there.
Can you imagine driving around with a Scotch egg in your pocket?
Yeah, that was.
That wouldn't be very nice.
That would have been something else. Anyway, so
that's the truth.
So yes and no is actually to that one then.
Apocryphal, but true.
Yeah, really good. No, I tell you what, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
That was really nice to have a bit of an idea. It's very hard.
Being questioned. Guys,
I know.
honestly, just go easy with the questioning.
Do this
all right?
again.
I can't take it anymore. I've got to go and lie down somewhere.
Oh, bless you.